welcome to Garden Dialogue. My name is Michael.
I'm David, and we have a special guest with us today, Kate.
Hi.
And welcome to Garden Dialogue.
Just to give a small background, when I used to work in the jewelry industry, Kate was one of my coworkers, and we became really, really great friends. And I hope it's okay to say at the time we were going through some turmoil. And as we all do. I was, absolutely. That's why I was working in the industry. So, what happened was that Kate shared some of her stories with me, and I introduced her to something called A Course in Miracles, which is something that is probably very prominent on our show, Garden Dialogue.
Which is where I also met David.
And at the Course in Miracles meetings, where I took Kate to, which I think benefited her a lot, actually. And that's where she met David, and here we all are together. And Kate actually has a story for us, which I think is really beneficial and is sort of proof of something that Carrie talks about a lot. Carrie is this psychic shaman we interviewed in the last episode. That's going to be airing on cable as well, which is pretty cool. She talks about the morphogenetic resonance and how...
The morphogenetic resonance.
Right. And how, like...
Can you spell that?
I probably
T-H-A-T.
That.
And what the morphogenic resonance is as time goes on, and you know, we've been, I don't know, I think probably at least 25 years into the Aquarian age, and you know, out of the Piscean age, and we're moving on forward into this new era where there's a new way of thinking, a healthier way of thinking, a more godly way of thinking, a more confident way of thinking, a more self-loving way of thinking. I can go on and on and on. What other ways of thinking? Healthier, better, right? Positive way of thinking.
Proper, not thinking insanely.
Yeah.
Right. Which is actually...
Thinking the logical thing. What is the most logical next step?
Well, the most logical next step is to tell this story, because it
Just tell the story.
Yeah, you're building it up. So my Saturday night, I was invited to attend an event at the Radio City Music Hall, which I've never been to. So firstly, that's a great thing to do in New York, right? But I was traveling on the road, and the guy who invited me, he had been given 2 tickets by somebody who's quite high up in his company. So it was a real honor that she chose him to give the tickets to, and gave him 2 tickets. And he said to me, I would rather not go with anybody but you, so come along. And I said, yeah, that sounds great. I've never been to Radio Music City Hall. And
He chose you for the experience.
he chose me for the experience. And he knew nothing about what the experience was about to be. I knew nothing. I was traveling on the road, super busy, got back to town, Friday night, Saturday got ready. I just dressed for Radio Music City Hall, but not really knowing what I was going to see. I didn't know if it was a band, was I going to see a performance? I really... Yeah, really. So we met up with the couple, the woman from his company, whose name is also Kate, and she's from Ireland. And her husband, who is American and fantastic. And we knocked back a couple of beers in a pub before we went and ate some chicken tenders. And I said to her after we'd done all the, oh, you're from England, you're from Australia, blah, blah, blah. I said to her, well, I really don't know anything about what we're seeing tonight. What is this? What are we doing? And she said, oh, okay. Neil didn't tell you? And Neil looks blankly and said, I don't know what we're going to see either. I really have no idea. Says it's called the Brain Art Festival.
The Brain Art Festival.
Right. And I said straight away, does that mean there's going to be audience participation? Because that sounds to me like something that, might involve being brainy or creative, or something that they might... she said there might be a bit of audience participation. I'm not really sure, I've never seen it at the Radio Music City Hall. It turns out that this is the first festival they've ever had. So we turn up there's thousands of people outside, from all demographics. It's not a lot of Koreans, I noticed right away. And it turns out that this guy who runs the thing is Korean, Ilchi Lee. Have you heard of him?
When she told me the story, just for the record, I got really scared, and I was like, did you go to some movie event?
Ilchi Lee.
Ilchi Lee. And so we sit down, but there's 5,000 people there. I'm like, why have I not heard of this before? And I said to Kate, what do we see? What's it going to be like? I don't understand any of this. The name means nothing, Brain Art, although you guessed it right away. To me, it meant nothing. It didn't. And actually, at the end of the show, I said, they need to change the name of this group because it doesn't really represent, I don't think. Anyway, so there was a master of ceremonies dressed in a gown, and she came out on stage, and there was a big screen behind her showing all of these different parts of the brain in kind of cartoon form being shot out at this, like total cheese, kind of that Asian interpretation of, cartoon. I don't even know. I should, yeah. Anyway, Neil and I looked at each other like, oh, what are we in for? And the first act was a bunch of little Korean kids playing drums, but doing it like stomp style, really cool, and kind of throwing themselves around. And then there was some break dancers who came on. So I'm like, okay, is this a creative thing? Are we just going to be sitting here on stage watching a bunch of talented people? But that's fine as well. But eventually Ilchi Lee himself came out, and he's this like maybe mid-60s Korean guy dressed all in white, of course. And he came out and he played the flute for us, and he did some martial arts thing with a stick, and he danced actually on that part. I liked him a bit. He's really humble and peaceful and just seems... So this is going on for 2 hours. And I'm still like, what does this all mean?
They're all having fun, which is great.
They're all having fun. And I mean, he would come out and talk. Ilchi Lee himself would come out and talk
about what?
Everything through a translator. So I like the fact that he hasn't even bothered to learn English yet, and he's at the top of this just cult, if you like.
What was he talking about?
He was talking about peace. And
Piece of pie or world peace?
World peace. And he was talking about being a child of the earth, a child of humanity, and recognizing the God of humanity, not the God of Christianity, the God of Buddhism. And it wasn't until the last 15 minutes that this all started to come together when some actress from Nip Tuck, it had all these famous people. There was a Japanese opera singer, so there was a whole bunch of Japanese people in the crowd who had come over it was their first ever festival. So it all kind of came together again, like I said, when this woman, this actress from Nip Tuck, read their prayer. They put their own prayer. And it was basically what I just said. There's one God, and the God is the God of the earth, of humanity, of civilization. And the whole, and basically kind of said religion is, not necessarily, thank you. Not necessarily a crop shit.
Right.
And the whole brain art thing is you're in charge of your brain. You decide the information that comes in, and you choose how you want to use that information. So if you want to believe in Christianity or Buddhism or something like that,
so be it.
So be it. But think about the information that you're being given and understand. Just try to be a little more thoughtful, which is what you were saying earlier about thoughtful living. And it's kind of like that whole Eckhart Tolle stuff thing. Well, I mean, everything that this garden dialogue is about, right? So by the end of it, actually, I had goosebumps, and I was really happy that I went. And it was just a beautiful message about peace, world peace. And then they ended with that Bette Midler song I told you about. From a Distance, yeah.
So what is their foundation? What is it? What